In analyzing the mechanics of value creation and destruction, the difference between a company that compounds wealth and one that systematically destroys it often comes down to a single dynamic. This is the direction in which its capital is absorbed. As detailed in the article from the Averaging Up collection, understanding this underlying current is perhaps the most vital skill an analyst can develop. It reveals whether a business is destined to generate lasting prosperity for its owners or if it will ultimately consume the very capital it was given. The core premise of the article echoes a profound assertion by financial strategist Michael Mauboussin. He notes that a company's anticipated value creation is measured by the spread between its return on invested capital and its cost of capital. In practical terms, if it costs a business 8% to acquire funding, it must consistently generate a return higher than 8% to justify its existence. The defining metric, however, is determining precisely how long a business can maintain that positive spread. This measurement is what we call the spectrum of absorption, a precise method for locating exactly where a business stands in its life cycle of value creation. To understand these measurements, we must first visualize the fundamental framework of any enterprise. At its core, every business is essentially a continuous flow of capital between two distinct reservoirs. Reservoir A is the toll. Consider this the structural choke point of the business, the cash it collects today simply by operating. It is short duration, it represents cash right now. Reservoir B is the growth. This is the wave of investment deployed to make tomorrow's toll larger than today's. It is long duration, representing cash later. Together, these two reservoirs form a company's dual duration, constantly interacting and pulling against one another. What fundamentally separates a magnificent business from a poor one is the direction the capital moves between these two reservoirs. The diagnostic principle applied here is profound in its simplicity. Does the toll generate more cash than the growth consumes, or does the costly growth devour the cash the toll produces? In a high-quality business, Reservoir A absorbs Reservoir B. The surplus is vast, it overflows, and it is ultimately returned to the owners. In a poor business, that vital flow runs entirely in reverse. This dynamic creates a spectrum divided into three distinct zones, each telling a different story of a company's destiny. In Zone 1, overflow, the toll effortlessly absorbs the growth. True value is created, and capital naturally flows back to the owner. It is the pinnacle of corporate health. Zone 2, erosion, presents a silent tragedy. Here, a sound toll funds value-destroying growth. The business survives, but it erodes its intrinsic value from the inside out by pouring surplus cash into expansions that return less than they cost. Finally, there is Zone 3, depletion. Here, growth completely devours the toll. Nothing overflows. The enterprise acts as a furnace, burning capital simply to exist, drifting steadily toward a zero balance. The direction of this absorption is not a theoretical abstraction. It is a measurable reality that leaves undeniable fingerprints across the company's financial statements. To cut through the narrative and locate a business exactly on this spectrum, we rely on four specific financial dials. These dials are the essential tools that reveal the precise relationship between what the toll generates and what the growth consumes. The first dial is free cash flow as a share of revenue. This provides the most direct, unvarnished reading of the overflow. It measures what remains of the toll only after the growth has been entirely funded. A business consistently converting 25 to 30 cents of every revenue dollar into pure free cash flow represents a powerfully overflowing toll. Conversely, a business demonstrating rapid revenue growth but producing zero free cash flow presents a dangerous illusion. It is an entity trapped on a treadmill where the cost of growth consumes absolutely everything the company manages to earn. A single year's revenue, however, does not tell the whole story. This brings us to the trajectory. The second dial compares cash flow growth against invested capital growth. Because a single annual report is merely a photograph, this dial provides a crucial measure of motion over time. If cash flow is rising faster than the capital being poured into the business, the overflow is accelerating. The tool is successfully pulling further ahead of the growth. If invested capital is ballooning while cash flow stagnates, the overflow is actively being consumed. The third dial separates maintenance capital expenditure from growth capital expenditure. This distinction is critical. It is the tell that separates a true reading from a catastrophic misreading. As Warren Buffett indicates when defining owner earnings, maintenance CapEx is the mandatory cost to keep an existing toll operating. Growth CapEx is discretionary spending meant to buy new capacity. Management teams often attempt to blur the lines between these two to make required upkeep look like exciting expansion. If capital expenditure is primarily true maintenance, the business is efficiently keeping its toll alive. If it is overwhelmingly growth capex, the business is forced to purchase its expansion painfully dollar by dollar. The fourth dial measures return on invested capital against the cost of capital. This is the ultimate threshold of value creation. A return above the cost of capital means every single reinvested dollar comes back to the business as more than a dollar. A return below it means growth actively destroys value. Consider the staggering reality noted by valuation expert Ashwath Damodaran. 60 to 70% of global companies earn less than their cost of capital. For the vast majority of companies, the pursuit of growth is fundamentally not worth what it costs. They are destroying wealth with every expansion cycle. Observing these ratios requires navigating a vital warning regarding the trap of the single snapshot. An isolated reading can easily flatter a doomed business that is simply enjoying a temporary lead before ruthless competition drives its returns below the cost of capital. Equally, a single snapshot can falsely condemn a magnificent young network, much like an early-stage Amazon, that is aggressively deploying necessary capital today, but is not yet matured enough to receive its massive future cash flows. The dial is a trajectory. Reading it at one isolated instant only reveals where the needle sits today, not where the momentum is carrying it. To resolve this tension, we must look beyond the financial statements to the structural moat. The financial ratios place the needle today, but only a structural barrier to entry acts as the invisible shield dictating whether that reading will hold over the next decade. A wide free cash flow margin protected by a powerful, durable moat is a generational wealth creator. That exact identical margin without a structural moat is a mirage, an anomaly that aggressive competitors will rapidly erase. The article synthesizes this complex reality into a strict two-step discipline. Step 1 is to deeply read the flow, utilizing the 4 dials to measure exactly what the business is today. Step 2 is to rigorously interrogate the structural barrier to reveal what the business is becoming tomorrow. Neither reading is complete without the other. Holding the cold financial numbers and the structural moat in the same uncompromising gaze is the only way to accurately locate a business on the spectrum of absorption. The next time you evaluate a high-flying growth company, ask yourself, are you looking at a true overflow or a mirage hiding a fatal depletion? This content is educational and reflects a personal analytical framework. It does not constitute investment advice. The Spectrum of Absorption from averagingup.com.